Should you buy or lease your next vehicle? If you are getting a new car, it's probably a question that has gone through your head. You know, I just bought a new car and I probably went back and forth a dozen times. One day I'm like, I'm leasing this vehicle. Next day, I'm buying this vehicle. And it was a really difficult decision. But what option is more financially responsible for you? With more on this, we go to Robin Lévesque, lawyer, CPA, and investment advisor. That's a trifecta, I say, to be the right person to talk to about this. Hi, Robin.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. Now, listen, you're a CPA, you're an investment advisor. So tell our listeners, how do you make that decision? Do I buy or do I lease?
Yeah, the buy or rent, it's a very, very common question we are faced to. There's probably not a single week in a year that we're not answering that question. We have to remind that it's just another way of financing. When you rent a car, it's just another way of financing because we have to establish the distinction between the term and the amortization. Because the lease contract is the term. Like with a mortgage, when you take a fixed 5 years, you're not done with the payment of the house after 5 years. So it's exactly the same thing with the lease contract. So the amortization in the lease contract is simply longer than when you buy. So with a lease contract, the amortization schedule will be usually between 6 and 7 years compared to buy on a shorter term. So yes, well, the monthly payments will be lower, but you're going to pay a longer time. So it's all about the rate. So probably the simple answer to buy or rent, it's probably more simple than most of people think. It's all about the rate. If you can buy at 2% and rent at 1.5, it's probably better to rent.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but there's 2+ for the lease contract. So it will be probably simpler to rent if you know in advance that you're not going to keep the car for a long time. You know, because to sell a car is not usually the most funny thing on earth. Managing the calls, the emails, the tryouts.
Yes.
And probably the other plus, if the car is a lemon, there's an easy exit in giving back the keys to the seller after maybe 36 or 48 months.
Yeah.
But but we have to remind, because the depreciation is more important on the first 36 or 48 months. So to lease perpetually costs more. You're always exposed to the worst period of depreciation. So, we hear sometimes people saying that if you knew from the beginning that you were going to buy the car, it was probably better to buy at the beginning. So usually it's totally false. It's all about the rate.
And Robin, I just want to we're with Robin Lévesque, and we're talking about buying versus leasing your next vehicle. Robin is a CPA and an investment advisor. Robin, I want to point this out as well. Obviously, with a lease, you brought up a good point. If it's a lemon, you can bring it, you can give it, you get to give it back after 36 or 48 months or whatever your lease term is. But on the other side there, if you love that car, after the 4 months, you're going to be faced with a decision of buying the car, whatever the contract says on how much you can buy it back for, and sometimes those terms, like the buyback price, isn't necessarily advantageous.
Yes, it happens. You have to keep in mind that it's always going to be cheaper to keep a car for a long time because the depreciation after 48 or 60 months will be slower. So another thing to keep in mind is it's better to not give down payments in a lease contract.
Oh, why is that?
Yeah, well, there's something that we call the gap insurance. Let's take an easy example. Two persons rent a car, and after 1 year, there's a total loss in a crash for both of them. So the fair market value after 1 year for the car is $20,000. The person number one has not paid a deposit and has a balance of $25,000. The person number two has paid $3,000 in deposit and has a balance, consequently, of $22,000 instead of $25,000. So in that case, with a total loss, the insurance will settle the balance anyway. So the person who paid $3,000 will lost it, because in other terms, you have covered a part of the debt that would have been paid by the insurer. So people will think that it's a very great thing to reduce the monthly payments or the weekly payments, putting down a deposit, but if there's a total loss, it's a danger, that's for sure.
If there's a total loss, you've lost all that money in the down payment versus someone that didn't put anything down.
Yeah, that's correct.
I want to get back. Yeah, finish your thought.
And I should talk about paying cash or not. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
When people ask cash, they're always questioning about, is it a good thing or it's better to finance? So it's always the same thing. It's all about the rate, because there are always an opportunity cost. So it's the same logic to not pay in advance the mortgage, because it's like if you have a mortgage at 2%, it's like buying a GIC of 2%. So financially speaking, it's not supposed to be really exciting, So, yep.
Robin, you brought up what I was going to ask you next, right? Because for me, when I made the decision, I finally made the decision to go with buying over leasing. One of the number one reason why I probably went with buying is because I'm not going to drive the car a lot. The lease was 16,000 kilometers per year. I'm probably going to use half that. So I'm, at the end of 4 years, I would have had a car with a very low mileage, which would have been worth more. So I said, okay, I'm going to go with the buy. And then on the buy, the interest rate, I was thinking, well, do I put a big down payment? But the interest rate they offered me was so low. I was like, well, there's so many opportunities for me to take that money and invest it in other places and make money in the interim, right? Is that probably the right decision?
That's totally correct. Most of the time, people have space in their tax-free savings accounts or RESP. So there's probably more cash to do in the investment with maybe 6, 7, or 8% a year, instead of putting a deposit and save maybe 2 or 3% with the car maker. So it's usually a good thing. But I gotta have something about the multiple deposits. To not confound with the down payment I was talking about. Mm-hmm. The multiple deposit, we back in the days, it was oftentimes offered in luxury brands, but nowadays it exists even with Mazda and Toyota and Honda, I think. So the answer is yes, you are rewarded with this strategy of multiple deposit. Well, in fact, you will lower down the rate of the lease contract with the multiple deposit, and you're going to be refunded after the term of the lease contract. And
Robin, I don't know what is a multiple deposit. I've never really heard of that. What is that exactly?
Okay. So, the car maker will ask you, do you want to put maybe $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $10,000 to lower down the rate of the lease contract? So,
gotcha.
You will see something like maybe at every $1,000 you put in deposit, will lower down the rate of 0.25%. So we did the calculation on this, and it's always winning.
Okay, gotcha. So that's a good decision.
Yeah, that's a good decision. Everybody who has cash should opt for the multiple deposit, because it's a good thing. Usually, it will equal something like between 7 and 9% of interest. So it's a good reward to go on with this strategy. Yeah.
Robin Lévesque is a lawyer, a CPA, and an investment advisor. Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Yeah, my pleasure.